Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Trolleheim with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Welcome. Hello, Thelma Sures. Welcome to the class. Welcome, Jerome. Let me go up here. Welcome, Lori. Welcome, Janet. Welcome, David. Ariel Lee. You have a sore throat. Oy. Okay, soup should be good. Refuah Shleima for you. Who's Brenda is here as well. Janet, did I mention your name? Welcome, everyone. I'm having double espresso, as I've been having lately. Right, I always explain why the double espresso, because I already had the big latte before, and I feel better having a smaller coffee. Welcome, Randy. Good afternoon to you. Yeah. Sohoraim Tovim, says Thelma. I like that. Good afternoon. Well, here we are. We are going to study today Parsha Yitro, which, among other things, contains the Ten Commandments. But we won't study the Ten Commandments today. I don't know. I still have this concept that it's a mistake to take the Ten Commandments as something that is more important than other parts of the Torah, right? At least because that's not what it is for us as Jews. We consider that all the commandments are equally important. That's why I usually try not to focus too much on, okay, let's talk about the Ten Commandments, because, the Ten Commandments. Every mitzvah, every commandment is equally important. That's why you will notice that we don't recitate, or we don't read, we don't chant the Ten Commandments every day. You will hope that if the Ten Commandments are such an important thing, right? It will be part of the Siddur, will be part of the prayer book, and we will recite the Ten Commandments every day. The way, like, for example, we recite the Shema every day, or the Song of the Sea, the Shirat Hayam, the song that the Israelites sang after they crossed the Red Sea, every day. But not the Ten Commandments. We read the Ten Commandments only when it's Parshat Yitro, and then we read it again when they are repeated in Deuteronomy, or for Shavuot. Shavuot, we read also the Ten Commandments. So, but other than that, they are not part of the liturgy. Just for that, the rabbi said, so we won't think that this section is more important than any other section of the Torah, because we learn, I would say, equally from every part of the Torah, and every mitzvah is equally important. So I was mentioning before that today I'm looking at my thermometer here. Is 1 degree Celsius here in Winnipeg, and it's going to keep going up to 2 degrees. Wow. You know, if you are in Winnipeg, you understand that this is almost like winter is over, and I think I'm going to open my pool tomorrow. It's great. Finally, after having minus 50, having plus 1, it's like 51 degrees difference. So it feels warm. It's incredible how human body works and the way we perceive temperature based on context. Is very, very, very interesting. So I hear some people who said, Janet, you said you have a storm there. Let me know what is the temperature wherever you are, right? And Lori, how is Texas? Or where is it? Brenda, David, tell me, how is Texas where you are? I want to know. I want to know the temperature everywhere, because it's incredible how different it is. Sometimes depends where you're connecting from, and so yeah. So before I forget, it's going to be up. Okay. Before I forget, we're going to have Torah L'chaim next week. Okay, and we are going to study specifically about Purim, because after that I will be away for 2 weeks. So we are going to miss the class right before Purim. So I usually like to teach Purim before Purim, but it will have to be done next week, next Thursday. Okay, just as a heads up. It's interesting. Oh, okay, David, you are translating from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Wow, 20 degrees, not bad. Tennessee, uh, oh, cold in Florida, 9.44. That's what it is. 9 degrees Celsius in Florida. Wow, wow, interesting. I'm talking because I won't be with you guys for Trollheim at the end of February because I'm going to Florida. So I was hoping to have a little bit of warm weather towards mid February. Let's see how it goes. I never lose my faith that the weather will be nice and I will have a little bit of a rest from the extreme cold here in Manitoba. But February and March, you never know. Here in Winnipeg, could be very cold, and then we have these spikes of temperature that it was really high, and there is a big melt, and then it goes down again, and everything is a skate rink. Because the other thing that is, and I'm being serious now. Okay, welcome Amparo, welcome to the class. I'm being serious here. There is an event that we have here in Winnipeg. That is called the Festival de Voyageur. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the French. I don't speak French, right? It starts on February 13th. The festival. It celebrates, the French Canadian culture here in Manitoba, the Métis culture. And one of the things they do is ice sculptures. They're beautiful, beautiful. Then they're an exhibition, so you can go for a walk and enjoy these beautiful sculptures. There is a competition. It's great, right? So what happened is there had been years here in Manitoba where February is so warm that they cannot do the sculptures. The ice melts right away. I know it's rare, but it did happen. And some other years it's so cold that people cannot go out to enjoy the sculpture because you have to walk for a while, and frostbite is a concern. So you never know what to expect for February, and what is going to happen this February, I don't know, but I will do my best before I go away to go and visit all the sculptures because it's an annual tradition that I have with my family, with my wife, with my son, to go and enjoy this beautiful art. So if you are in Winnipeg, or if you have a chance to see the photos, I would recommend for you to do it. I will type it here. How do you pronounce it? How do you do it here? Listen to this, guys. If you want, you have to do this. You should Google it. What they do is quite amazing. You Google that, you will have all the information of what they do, what it is, and what is involved. Yeah, it's really something. Okay, so the other thing that is really something is this week's parsha. Remember, it's called Yitro. Yitro. Yitro was Moses' father-in-law. He was also a priest, not a Jewish priest. He was a priest in an area called Midian, that is close to Mount Sinai, actually. Because remember, Moses used to live with Yitro when he was married to Yitro's wife, and Moses used to take all the sheep and the goats to eat to Mount Sinai. That's how Moses discovered the burning bush, remember? And that was on Mount Sinai as well. So, yeah. Yes, Ariel, they have great music too there. Yeah. So, what happened is, now that the Israelites left Egypt, and now that they were approaching Mount Sinai for the revelation of the Ten Commandments, Yitro, who was living next door, came to visit Moses and brought with him Moses' wife and 2 sons. That it looks like Moses left behind to have to be concentrated full time, 24/7, into the liberation of the Israelites. I guess it makes sense. This like leaving the family behind to go for a mission or for a tour, like let's say for people in the military, right? This is unfortunate, but that's what happened with Moses. He had to leave. And now Yitro comes to see Moses, and he brings now Moses' wife and 2 kids. But Yitro had a very interesting encounter with Moses, because it looks like they learned from each other. What do I mean with that? Moses is going to learn in this parsha how to delegate. How to delegate. Are you good delegating? Let me know in the chat, because it looks that Moses was not good at delegating. And Yitro noticed that Moses was not delegating any of the responsibilities. For example, when he was judging cases or things that were happening to the Jewish people. So when Yitro came and said, "What are you doing? You're going to burn out. You have to train other people, teach them how to do what you do, and then you give the easy cases to them, and then you keep only the most difficult ones." And that's exactly what Moses did, which is talking about Moses' humility. Why do I say that? Because many times when people don't want to delegate, it's because it comes from a place of arrogance, but not to Moses. That's why I believe the Torah makes it clear that Moses accepted Yitro's words and Yitro's advice to make us know, to let us know that the fact that Moses was not delegating did not come from a place of arrogance. Perhaps it came from a place that he didn't want to bother other people. Who knows? But not from a place of arrogance. So let me read a few comments here. Thelma Sures, you said, "I like the part of this parsha where Yitro tells Moses to delegate." Yeah, that's what I said. It's great. It's great because we believe that. Brenda, what do you say here? Say, I do the delegating just as David. So, yeah, it's very interesting. Welcome, Holly. Welcome to the class. But Moses wasn't good. But you know what? He looked like he was good at listening to advice, because the Torah keeps repeating that Moses was a humble person, and we can see it a little bit on this parsha. Okay, but I said Moses learned from Yitro. But what did Yitro learn from Moses? I mentioned before that was some kind of reciprocity here, right? And I want to show you one thing, at least one thing, that the Torah says that Yitro learned after this visit to his son-in-law. Let's see. We are in Exodus chapter 18, verses 10 to 11, and it says, Yitro said, "Blessed be Adonai, who has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, who has rescued the people from the harsh hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Adonai is greater than all other gods, because he rescued those who were treated so arrogantly. Oh, you know what I mean. So this is very interesting, because now we have also Yitro recognizing that there was something that he didn't know, and now he does. The same way that Moses recognized, well, I didn't know that I could delegate all the things to other people, but now I know. It's very important for somebody to be able to say, I don't know. And not to pretend that you know while you learn. Because I've noticed that trait of character in some people, that they pretend that they know it, but actually you can tell that they're actually learning as they go. Why don't you say, I don't know it? I think it's a more honest opinion. But we are always trying to be perceived as perfect, right? Like we know everything. But that's not it shouldn't have to be that way. We should be able to be humble and to say, I don't know, when we don't know. So here we have Yitro that said that he learned something new. What is that he learned? He learned, right, that Adonai is greater than all other gods. Interesting that you could say, well, maybe what he should learn is that there are not other gods. It's not that God, Adonai is greater than all other gods, it's that Adonai is the only God. He could have said that. He could have said that, but he said it this way for a reason. And that reason is for our own sake, so we can understand something about Yitro. What is that? Let's see the next slide, and hopefully it will be clear for you what I'm talking about here. Okay? Rashi explains, this tells us that he, Yitro, had full knowledge of every idol in the world, for he had worshipped them all. So let's continue. Now the Zohar is going to expand Rashi's words by saying the Torah could not be given to Israel until Yitro, the great and supreme priest of the all pagan world, had confessed his faith in the Holy One, saying, now I know that Adonai is greater than all other gods. So what it means here, and what the rabbis learned from those words, is that it was written this way to let us know that Yitro explored all those other idols. It explored it. And sometimes we have to understand when it's talking about other gods, especially here. I'm going to go back so you can see. How can I do that? How can I do that? Hold on a minute. Oh, here. I want to know you the Hebrew. The Hebrew is Ki Gadol Adonai Mikol Ha-Elohim. Okay? Because Adonai is greater, Gadol Adonai is greater than, Kol Ha-Elohim, Kol from all the gods. But the word for Elohim could also means powers, from all other powers, not necessarily idols. What do I mean? The Egyptians, for example, used to worship the sun, right? But the sun, we know that the sun has power. Not in the sense of a god, but power in the sense that the sun brings life into this world. It is beneficial for us, for the plants, for many things. It depends from the sun to have specific chemical reactions to live, okay, to survive. Same with the water. The water also has power. We can create electricity in this generation from the water. We drink the water and we are alive. So there are other powers in the universe, okay? There are things. Nature is a powerful thing. And we know that because of lack of understanding of nature, some people actually worship nature. So it's fascinating that the Torah let us know that Yitro explored all that. Not just that, he was invested on it, but he was always curious to try to learn more, until eventually he learned about Adonai. He learned about the one God. So it's not saying that there are other gods and Adonai is more powerful than them. But if I know Adonai is powerful, but Adonai is too complicated, too many mitzvot, too many commandments, so I will worship the other one. Maybe they are not so powerful, but they are good enough. No, it's not talking about that. What it's talking is, Yitro understand every power in the universe, mostly about talking about nature, but he understands that Adonai is above all the powers, that all the other powers in the universe come from Adonai. And now he understood that. That yes, there are other things that we think, we perceive, that they are powers, but they are not. They are just manifestations of God. Now, this expression that we have here in Hebrew, I will read it again. He said, Ki gadol Adonai mikol Elohim. We have something very similar that we say every day. Mi hamocha ba Elohim Adonai. Right? Who is like you among the mighty Adonai. We don't say who is like you among the gods, among the mighty, among the other powers. We also have something like that in everyday prayers, the mihamocha, right? So that's why it is. Any comments that we have from the chat? I will take a minute here so I can have a little bit of my coffee, and I always love to read your comments and what you think about the story of Yitro and what he learned during this visit with Moses. Because remember, many of the things that he learned, he probably learned from a conversation with Moses because they didn't have internet back in the day. So this is the way you could learn about what happened. He probably heard that something happened with the Israelites, some messenger came, but he didn't have the details, and now he did. He learned about the plagues and all that. Let me see what you think. And let's continue. Midrash Rabbah will continue with this. Midrash Rabbah will say, there are those who hear and are diminished by it. Okay? While there are those who hear and they are beneficiaries of what they heard. I love that. Forget about Torah for a minute. Forget that this is coming from Midrash Rabbah. I love this phrase in general. They are those who hear and they are diminished by it, while they are those who hear and they are beneficiaries of what they heard. It's incredible. Things that, it could be something that you learn. You can use that knowledge to improve or the opposite. Right? Depends on who you listen to. Depends on what you listen to. Depends on the quality of the things you listen to. And this is something that sometimes we have to be aware that not every information that comes our way is equal, is equally beneficial. Sometimes believing such things could be could contribute for us to diminish, to be less of what we are today. And in this generation, especially with all the fake news and fake things done with artificial intelligence that is getting better and better and is more and more scary, let's put it that way. So we have a double responsibility to filter what we listen or what we see. Because remember, the way we react to what we see or what we listen, it can change our outcome. It can change our future. So Midrash Rabbah will mention here two examples. One, you can probably guess as Yitro. Yitro heard about God, and it was beneficial for him. He changed based on that experience. The fact that he gave himself the opportunity to learn about God changed his life for the better. Okay? But let's see the other example that the Midrash Rabbah gives here. He's talking about Yehoash, who was a king. Okay? He said, Yehoash heard and was diminished. The nation heard about the splitting of the Red Sea, and rather than glorifying God, they were pained and distraught by the destruction of Egypt. All this, it's incredible because we can connect this to our modern world as well. Okay? In contrast, Yitro heard and benefited. Despite the fact that he was a high priest of idolatry, he abandoned all that he had accomplished in his life and attached himself to Moses, and entered under the wings of the divine presence. He merited to contribute to the portion of judges that is in the Torah. So the idea of training judges was Yitro, and he is credited with that in the Torah. As we find, he delineated to Moses the criteria to choose a qualified judge. Now, this Jehoash, he was a righteous king, a religious king, the one who believed in God, and he started to hear that people wanted to go back to worship idols, and he started to listen to them, and he was influenced by all these negative voices, and eventually he gave in, and he allowed that to happen, and that was a disaster for the Jewish people. So in his case, he heard and was diminished, right? He heard and was diminished. But Yitro comes to prove that change is possible when you have the right influences around you. That's why Pirkei Avot will say that one of the most important things that we should try to do is to be surrounded by positive people, because they will somehow be part of what we are going to become. You know, I always say, you want to know what a person is going to become in 10 years from now? Look at the people around that person. And that will give you a good idea what the person is going to become. Because everything that we have around, what we see, what we hear, it permeates into our life. And I know, Brenda, you say here, it's very difficult to filter, right? Very difficult to determine the truth. I will put it here. Difficult the truth from the fake. And that's true. But it's also, what it means is, it's a responsibility to decide the same way that, which people are part of our inner circle. Is our responsibility to decide where are we getting our news from, what we listen, what we read. That we can do. We can decide where things are coming from. And I don't want to take it to the extreme that you will see, for example, in Orthodox communities, that the rabbis are filtering the information for them first, and the rabbis will decide what they can read, what they cannot read, what they can listen, what they cannot listen, what they can watch, or what they cannot watch. I don't think that that's the solution. I think we are smart enough to take the time to decide where our information is coming from. The problem is that we never stop to think. We just take whatever is in front of us for granted. We don't take for granted everything that is in front of us. We have to stop and think. That's the way it is. Unfortunately, I've seen it many times. People who share things on social media without even taking a minute to think, is it real or it is not real? Because once you believe, right? Once you believe, the belief will change what you do. The way we do is based on our belief system. So we have to be careful of what we believe, right? That's the thing. So this is a perfect example on how Yitro, because he was able to be around the right people, he was around Moses, changed for the better. And how King Jehoash, unfortunately, he had lousy, counsel around him, lousy friends. So, unfortunately, it didn't go well for him. Yeah. Let's continue with this. Listen to this. This implied that Yitro was aware of Hashem, of God, before. He just did not appreciate God's power. It seems difficult to understand how one can know of Hashem but not know Hashem's greatness. The explanation is that if one knows of God's existence but does not analyze God's own ones that not analyze their own day-to-day life to see Hashem's Ashgachat Pratit, divine providence, if one doesn't realize that it is not his own efforts that causes his success, then he is in effect an idolater like Yitro had been. So let me stop here for a minute. And this is something at least I try to do every day. And it's something I learned from Hasidism, which is to stop every day and to try to see God on everything that happens to you. And that starts with the understanding that things don't happen to you, things happen for you. But in order to understand and appreciate that, you have to stop and to recap everything that happened. And when I'm saying everything, I'm talking about everything. And you will be surprised also how much in tune with your own life you're going to be. Understanding better everything that you go through in a single day, and you will have a better understanding of things that you have learned every single day. New thing that you learn because you are aware of all the experiences that you have every day. And that starts by trying to find God on every experience you have. It's a beautiful thing once you get used to it. Okay, let me continue here. Now, what was the idolatry of old? It involves trying to draw sustenance or blessing from the forces of the universe. Contemporary man is focused on harnessing nature for his own ends. He thinks that success is a function of how many hours one spent at work and doesn't realize that nature is merely God's agent. He is oblivious to the role of God in the world and is no different than the idolaters of the past. Wow. It's sometimes we believe that to be an idolater, you need a statue in front of you and you need to worship it lighting candles. I think that's not the way it works. And idolatry is not so much a set of behavior and more of a mentality. So in other words, let's put it the other way around. Monotheism is also not so much a set of behaviors, but it's a mentality. It's a set of beliefs that it will guide everything you do. And that is something that we can achieve by finding God in our lives. That is the beginning of everything, trying to find God in your life. And from there, everything will fall into pieces. It's a beautiful feeling when that happens. Yeah. Now, the Parsha, listen to this, also very interesting. The Parsha, which contains the giving of the Torah, begins with the word Vayishma. He heard. To indicate that a willingness to listen and absorb is the key to coming closer to Hashem. We know this, right? And one of the biggest issues is, and this is all about ego. It's what I mentioned at the beginning. Ego is what won't allow us to listen. We are so set in our own beliefs that we don't even give an opportunity. Maybe we are wrong. God forbid we are wrong. We know everything. We won't even admit when we don't know something. So that's why it's not a coincidence that the first word is Vaishma. He heard, he listened, right? To indicate that a willingness to listen and absorb is the key to coming closer to Hashem. Even a simple person, and even someone who is distant from Hashem, can draw closer when he is ready to listen to and absorb what God is saying. And again, don't try to listen to the voice of God as a human voice, because God talks to us through life. So the more we are in tune or aware of what's happening to us, perhaps the better we can understand the quote-unquote voice of God. Okay? How do I know that this is true? Because a person who studies Torah constantly and performs many mitzvot realizes that he is distant from Hashem. Why then is he considered a meritorious person? Only because he wants to hear what God has to say. It follows then that anyone who wants to hear what God has to say can likewise draw himself closer. But everything starts with the willingness of listening, which also could be understood as the willingness to learn something new that may challenge your past beliefs. When you come to a class, at least that's the way I do it. When I come to a class or a lecture or something, I come with the preconception that I may learn something that goes against what I knew before. And I have to be open to learn something new. And if that makes sense, open and willing to change. That is something very interesting. Brenda, you said, that morning minyan gives me the opportunity to connect and begin the day on a positive note. And that is also very important, Brenda. I will highlight this because not everybody reacts to religious experiences the same way. Let's see if I want to... hold on. I will speed it up here. Maybe I will go back to that later. But I want to share with you, with all of you, this because of what you just said, Brenda. I don't want to run out of time today without exploring this theme here. That is pretty much connected. I will show it again. It's pretty much connected with what you just said. You say here, I find that morning minyan gives me the opportunity to connect and begin the day on a positive note. It is great that you feel something when you connect to the services. So I would like to ask all of you guys at home, have you ever felt something at synagogue? If you can, please share it with me. And if you want to share what is that you felt and when it was. And this is fundamental and is reflected in this week's Parsha. Listen to this. Exodus 20:15-16 says, all the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the blare of the horn and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they fell back and stood at a distance. This is the revelation. This is God revealing the Ten Commandments to the Jewish people. Okay? Revealing the Ten Commandments to the Jewish people. It's what would you do if you are in that situation? You are next to Mount Sinai, and then God is for the first time. Remember, I always mentioned, you don't listen to the voice of God. You have to look at life to kind of get a hint of what God is telling you. But now you have the opportunity to be there and to actually somehow, I can't even imagine it, listening to the voice of God. Right? And not only that, there are thunders and lightning and the blare of the shofar and the mountain is smoking. Right? Will you do what they did? What they did is they fell back and stood at a distance. When you have this strong spiritual experience, will you run towards it or away from it? Think about that. Are you running towards it or away from it? Why do I say that? Because what they did, and I will read the next verse, they said to Moses, you speak to us, and we will obey, but let not God speak to us, lest we die. Do you get it? These people have the opportunity, unique historical opportunity to listen to the voice of God, and they begged Moses to stop that. We don't want to listen to the voice of God. We rather listen to your voice. You tell us what God say, and we already know Moses wasn't even a good speaker. We learned that about him before, right? Yes. Brenda, I was thinking, oh, thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Jerome said, I had the experience of feeling like I was hovering above the congregation watching the daven. So, yeah, Jerome, for example, why you do that? Are you going to try to repeat that experience, or are you going to be freaked out and try to stop it? Okay? Because that's exactly what happened here. They had this intense feeling. They freaked out because they never felt that before. And instead of embracing it and then trying to repeat it in the future, they shut it down. They rather have the voice of Moses, which you can't even compare. And I think that I've seen other people do it in the synagogue, that they grew up as secular. Maybe they consider themselves rational Jews, and they relate to Judaism through study and, intellectual connection. And they come to synagogue with that mentality, and then boom, they come to the service, something happened. Maybe it's a song, maybe it's a word from a rabbi, maybe it's the silence, and they feel something that cannot be explained by logic. Maybe that's you. And I've seen people shutting that experience down. Oh, this is not my place. It's not intellectual enough for me. And then they say, well, why would they do that? Well, there is a precedence in the Torah. The Jewish people did the same thing. And I believe that it's all going back to what happened with Yitro. The problem is that sometimes by listening, you have to challenge your old beliefs. The people of Israel here, in order to embrace God and to accept that they can connect with the divine and they can have this kind of intense spiritual experience without involving the kind of sacrifices that the Egyptians used to do, right? Discovering that that's possible was probably frightening just by itself. Because when you accept something, you embrace it, then it implies that you have to change the way you live. Sometimes it implies changing lifestyle and stuff like that. So this is an interesting example that the Torah gives, and it should be something that we have to learn. And I believe that this couple of verses here are not analyzed nearly enough. Because I can tell you, I know many people that they refuse to accept that they had strong spiritual experiences. Because if they embrace it, that means that they will have to change their lifestyle. God forbid they're going to become shul goers, right? And maybe they will have to go through peer pressure. What do you mean you want to go to shul? You're not going golfing with us this Saturday? What are you going to tell them? No, because I went to synagogue last Saturday and I felt something, guys. It's amazing. Nobody wants to do that because they're afraid that somebody was going to make fun of them and think. But it's real. It's real. This attitude is more common of what we may think. Let me read a little bit of your comments here. Lori, you said, men in Talit like angels at the kotel. Randy, I feel more aware that there is much more than myself to handle myself, a true meaning of life. Okay, very nice. Jerome, always hope it will repeat. Yeah, okay. You see, that's the thing. Give ourselves the opportunity to repeat it instead of shut it down. Holly, you said, my first time at synagogue, I was 9. When I heard the cantor sing, I felt the notes were coming directly from heaven. A piano was being playing behind the curtains too. Always possible. Yeah. But you see, Holly, I've seen people, and I can think at least a couple of my friends, that they went through that and they were freaked out by that experience. And they never came back. It was uncomfortable for them. Sometimes it could be uncomfortable if you don't embrace it. So it's easier to shut it down. Ariel, highly divine experience. Thank you. And he said, and Holly said, I had the same feeling when I heard Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel speak. You see, that's my point. It doesn't have to be just music. It could be a word, could be a cadence of a speaker that it makes you enter into this spiritual trance because of what they are saying and the way they say it. Right? It's a thing. I feel some of this when I read from the Torah, Thelma. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I felt something very strong, and I didn't know what it was. The first time that I heard the sound of the harmonium. You know what the harmonium is? It's this East Indian instrument. In fact, I use it sometimes for services. I've been practicing today because I'm taking it on Saturday to a Shabbaton at the Hebrew Day School, and I usually bring it for them. I'm invited to do mincha with them at the end of the Shabbaton. They're very tired. They haven't slept and way too much sugar during the day. So I bring the harmonium and everything calms down. And you will be in awe at how the students react to it. When I went, it was an experiment. And I thought that they were going to laugh about the harmonium. But in fact, they came to tell me, like we are talking about sixth graders, that they felt something with the vibration of the music after a long Shabbaton. It was incredible, right? Look, let me show you a little bit. I have it here. Let's see if I can play it because it's acoustic. I cannot connect it, but let's see if the microphone can capture it. Could you hear it? If you were able to hear the harmonium, let me know. Let me know because I don't know if this microphone is great for amplifying a harmonium, but it's all I have. Yeah, can you hear me now? I think it was a little disconnection here. And yeah, it's I don't know why. The first time I heard it, I could have shut it down because I could have said, oh well, it's an instrument that is played on Hindu temples or Hare Krishna, so I would shut it down, and I would say, why? Make me feel something. So instead of that, I embraced it, and I get a religious experience every time I play it. So that's why I said this text from this week's parsha resonates with me because of that. It's an experience that never felt before, and I had two options. I can shut it down, or I can embrace it, right? So, yeah. So listen to this, for example, that even Ezra said. Heads of the tribes who were close to Moses said they spoke to Moses after the 10 statements were completed because they were very anxious, for they feared that God would continue to speak to them and that they would consequently die. That is why in the next verse, Moses told them, fear not. Okay? And that's exactly what happened. Moses, did I put it here? The next verse, Moses will say, don't be afraid. Nothing bad is going to happen. In fact, it's all the opposite. This is beneficial for you guys. Don't shut it down. God is giving you the opportunity to wake up your soul, which is one of our goals in life, to have more consciousness of the connection between our souls, our God, and that's it. Right? So the Hiskuni will say, the people of Israel say, you speak with us and we will listen, we will obey. They said this, that they were afraid of the thunder and lightning. It's all this, like, they were afraid that this intense experience would be bad for them, which in reality was all the opposite. Right? Now, the Ora Chaim will explain this. It said, the people meant that if acceptance of God's commandments was dependent on our listening to God speak to us directly, this was no longer necessary. They said, it is good enough for us to listen to His commandment as they come out of your mouth. We will consider this binding upon us. We do not wish to endanger our lives by being exposed to God's voice any longer. They said to Moses, if you speak to us, we will be able to hear it without dying. If God were to continue to speak to us, we could not hear because we will die. Now, the key word here, I don't know if you can see it, but to me the key word is what it says, when the people of Israel replace the experience of being aware of the presence of God with Moses. Why? It says there, because it was good enough. It was good enough. And this is so human. We settle with good enough when we have the opportunity to aim for excellent. I don't know if this ever happens to you, because it's a very human thing that we should all try to overcome. Not to go through life accepting, well, this is good enough, it's good enough, it's good enough. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to, because there is no way to go any further. But if it is upon you, if you have the skills or the opportunity to aim for higher, why do you have to settle with good enough? Of course, it's good enough to go to synagogue and, just get what they give you. And it's good enough for you to have a little bit of an experience. But what if you have other ways to enhance that with your own readings, with your own songs? Maybe you can pray at home or listening to different kind of music to enhance that spiritual experience. Don't settle with good enough. That's what the Ora Chaim is telling us here. By the way, I think it's Ora Chaim, I believe it was from Morocco, this work. Yeah, and I also believe that here, without dying, only think of if God speak, we are going to die, is a metaphor for all the things that you have to change, all the comfort that we already experience in our lives. Because let's be honest, we human beings are great at getting comfortable with dysfunction. We get used to it. We get used to our dysfunction. It's good enough. That's okay. I don't need more. You may not need more, but you can aim for more. And if I feel that if you have in you to give more, it's because God put it there. So we have to always aim for excellence and never to settle with good enough, which is what the people try to do here in the desert, and they miss an opportunity. They miss an opportunity to listen to the voice of God on a daily basis. It's yeah. So Moses says here, I will continue with the Ora Chaim. In the next verse, says, do not fear. Do not fear. Moses reassured the people that even if the Lord were to continue speaking to them directly, they will not die, as God had already accomplished His purpose in testing the Jewish people by inspiring awe of Him in them. He had already removed the residue of pollutants that they had still contained within themselves, pollutants dating back to Adam. There was also a second reason God had spoken to Israel directly. Once their pollutants had been removed, God's presence was able to occupy a permanent presence among them, and the image of the Lord which original man had been created in had now been fully restored to all of the Israelites. The combination of these two elements was a great barrier to the Israelites sinning again in the future. Anyone who possesses shame, another word for fear of the Lord, will not easily be tempted to commit a sin. So in other words, what it says here is the refusal to accept a greater spiritual experience on their life is because they knew what it meant. It knew that it means a new lifestyle, that it will be more and more removed from sin. And that's not necessarily the kind of lifestyle we want. So it's very interesting. That to me, I think is a very interesting thing. So yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you very much, everyone, for your presence. And remember, next week we are going to study about Purim. And then we are going to take a 2 weeks hiatus because I will be away for a couple of weeks. I haven't taken real holidays in a long time. And these also are not real holiday. I'm going to a bar mitzvah and a cruise. So it's going to be a little bit of a blend between work and vacationing. And yeah, but hopefully I will see you again, guys, in March. But remember, next Thursday, yes. And then nothing for 2 weeks and then back in March. Brenda, will you be doing Kabbalat Shabbat tomorrow? Yes, I will be doing Kabbalat Shabbat tomorrow, God willing. Okay? I may even give you a couple of high notes here and there, as I was asked last time. So thank you, everyone, again. Remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central. If you missed any of it, you can play it again. Please, remember, give us the thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. This helps us a lot to grow even more and to spread the words of Torah to even more people if you feel that this class is valuable and worth to be shared. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. Okay? And hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.